Hey up everyone! So continuing the Venice Film Festival coverage, today's movie I'm discussing on the channel is the latest film from Brady Corbett, the man who gave us Vox Lux, a very underseen and underappreciated film in my opinion. His latest film is a sprawling drama called The Brutalist, which chronicles the journey of a Hungarian-born Jewish architect called Laszlo Toth, played in this film by Adrien Brody, who immigrates to the United States in 1947. Initially forced to toil in poverty, Laszlo lands a contract which will change the course of his life over the next 30 years. The Brutalist is a project that has been 7 years in the making for Brady Corbett, and it seemed like a massive gamble. Its runtime did seem quite daunting when it was officially announced that this film was 3.5 hours long. Put that into context, that's like just as long as Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. But Corbett is no Martin Scorsese, okay? He doesn't have the career or the cachet that Scorsese brings to a picture. So a 3.5 hour film on 70mm about an immigrant architect did seem quite ambitious. But rest assured, The Brutalist is a spectacular accomplishment from Brady Corbett and absolutely justifies its runtime. The Brutalist is one of those movies where just a few minutes into it, you're already aware that you're watching something very beautiful and quite special. I've seen a lot of people at Venice labeling this film as a masterpiece. I personally don't think it is a masterpiece. I think it is a fantastic film, an exceptional one at that, but I did think that the first half of this film was stronger and more consistent than the second half. There was some things in the second half that didn't quite come together for me, but again, I still think it is an incredible accomplishment from Brady Corbett, and I do think it is going to be a huge player when it comes to the Oscars, so yeah, I did want to discuss it. The first half of this film sees Laszlo trying to find his way in America, from landing at Ellis Island to staying with his cousin Attila in his furniture shop in Philadelphia, where Laszlo helps his cousin to custom design and renovate a library for a wealthy high-end client called Harrison Lee von Buren, who's played by Guy Pearce. And Laszlo does such a good job that Van Buren tracks him down and asks him if he'd be willing to design and build a center for community and activities in Doylestown. Then there's an actual 15-minute built-in intermission, and the second half sees Laszlo reunited with his wife, Ezra, played by Felicity Jones, as well as his niece, Zofia, who's played by Raffey Cassidy. The brutalist of the title actually refers to the style of architecture that Laszlo is known for. It's a style of architecture that I'm actually quite familiar with because there are a lot of brutalist designed buildings in London, like the Barbican Centre, the South Bank Centre, and the National Theatre as well. Everything about this film feels so massive in scope. The building that Laszlo designs for Van Buren is enormous, and the story itself spans across several decades, but it is actually quite an intimate story about a man and his family trying to make a life for themselves in America, but it's done in such epic fashion. Part of me was concerned that this was going to be like a very slow, super serious, hard-hitting drama about, characters that have survived the Holocaust and are immigrants, and while there is certainly like harrowing topics in this film like poverty and sexual abuse and famine, I was taken aback by how hopeful and engaging the film actually was. Even with a 3.5 hour runtime, the script I thought was fantastic. Brady Corbett and Mona Fastfold's screenplay is so intelligently written and the dialogue is so smart without being pretentious. But what really surprised me about this film was just how humorous it was in places. Like, there's a very dry comedic sensibility that's peppered throughout the screenplay, but never was it boring. Like Van Buren says to Laszlo, I find our conversations quite intellectually stimulating, and I have to say, the conversations in this movie were very engaging. They had a lot of interesting things to say about Jewish identity, white privilege, and the immigrant experience. Also, this film looks exquisite. Like, it is a rare treat to see a film these days shot on 70mm and with such artistry. This is genuinely one of the prettiest looking movies you will see all year. Director of photography Lo Crawley really understood the importance and value of lighting and space, especially given that the film is about brutalist architecture. Like, it's really applicable to not just the scenes with the buildings, but just like the scenes in general. Like, the opening scene of this film is so arresting. Like, you're not actually quite sure where you are at first, but it's when we're introduced to Laszlo and he's in this space. It's very dark and dank and cramped and crowded, and he's trying to get out of it. It almost feels like a pilgrimage of sorts. And then finally he gets towards the light, and lo and behold, he's in New York, and we see Lady Liberty greeting him, and also The score just swells to this beautiful climax. It's so good. Like, it's such a exciting way to start off a film. But yeah, the score by Daniel Blumberg is just wow. But yeah, where the film loses a few points to me was with the second half. There's a moment, which I'm not going to spoil for you, but it involves one of the characters taking a very dark turn, which up until that point feels incredibly out of character for this person. Like, I'll say this, I certainly didn't see it coming. And the consequences of these actions aren't really resolved. Like, there is a confrontational scene about it, but then the character kind of bolts and they go looking for them, and it just kind of like fizzles out into nothing. Like, we don't actually know what happens to them. In fact, the ending itself had a few unanswered questions, things that were left unresolved or just kind of open-ended for the audience to decide. I found it frustrating that there were no answers to some of the questions that I had. And yeah, it was also frustrating that for a film that just starts so strong, didn't quite all come together in the end. I was frustrated that it didn't quite stick the landing. But despite that, it still doesn't detract from the fact that the rest of the film was so good. Pretty much every department in this film crushed it. All right, I'm being super delicate with my Oscar statue today because he's already been broken twice this trip, so I don't want it to happen a third time, so I'm gonna pop him down. But yeah, do I think that The Brutalist is gonna be an Oscars player? God, where do I begin? Because every department in this film is worthy of praise and accolades. As soon as I came out of The Brutalist, I had to readjust all of my predictions on the Awards Expert app to include The Brutalist. Now that I've seen it, Best Picture makes absolute sense. It is a beautiful film, it's topical, it's all about the struggles of being an immigrant and the American dream. It's about family, it's about creativity, it's about legacy. But yeah, it really does feel like your classic Best Picture type nominee. Brady Corbett definitely seems like a credible contender for Best Director. I know he's quite young. I think he's on like 36, and sometimes like they tend to go for like the more seasoned directors in the director's branch. But this is very confident direction from Brady Corbett. There's a lot of very impressive like one takes throughout, a lot of like symbolic visuals with like lots of shots of roads and train tracks to sort of symbolizing Laszlo's journey of life that he's on. When it comes to performances, I have definitely been sleeping on Adrien Brody. Even though he's not had a nomination since his first win for The Pianist, back in 2003, we need to entertain the idea that Adrien Brody could be a two-time Best Actor winning Oscar recipient. Like, it could happen. The performance is that good, okay? He owns this film. He lives in the role of Laszlo, okay? He breathes so much life and fire into this part. And if you want to talk like box checking, there is so much here for him to work with, because not only is he doing like an impressive Hungarian accent, he does it all here. He cries, he screams, he's funny in places, he's sympathetic. He gets one moment of transformational makeup right at the end of the film. His character's a Holocaust survivor and a heroin user. He's also got magnificent screen partners here to work with Felicity Jones and Guy Pearce, who are both equally worthy of supporting actor and actress nominations themselves. I feel very confident saying that at the very least, Adrien Brody will be nominated, but I also think he is a challenger for the win. Watch out Common Domingo, watch out Daniel Craig, okay? He's not going to go down without a fight. Like I said, Felicity Jones is marvelous in this, okay? There's so many scenes where your heart goes out to her. She's got herself a few Oscar clippy moments, I'd say, and yeah, we could be looking at a second nomination for her. And Guy Pearce has a substantial supporting role in this, okay? He has a fair bit of screen time, and he's also playing a character with a lot of personality, okay? He's very, like, overzealous and peacocky. It's a very charismatic performance from Guy Pearce, and you know what? Guy Pearce has never had an Oscar nomination, okay? We need to rectify that. This is probably the role that's going to get him his first Oscar nom for supporting actor. But honestly, when it comes to The Brutalist, this is the type of film that feels like The Irishman or The Favourite, you know, the type of film that the Academy will just all get on board with and give 10 plus nominations to. I feel like The Brutalist has a very good chance of getting like 10 Oscar nominations. Like, I can just see it getting nominated across the board in like the crafts and the text. Yeah, screenplay, costumes, hair and makeup, editing. Oh my god, the editing in this is fantastic. Cinematography, of course, sound, the score. Oh my god, the score could be a challenger. And of course, production design. I mean, this film is about architecture, and some of the sets in this are like set pieces in and of themselves. It would be wild if this film wasn't the big Oscar contender that I think it is going to be, because I don't know how a film like this goes unacknowledged. It ticks so many boxes and is just a showcase of excellence across the board. So yeah, I'm expecting The Brutalist to be a huge contender when it comes to the Oscars 2025. All right then, shall we ask them 3 questions? Firstly, would I watch it again? Absolutely. If I had a spare 3.5 hours to give at the Venice Film Festival, I'd go watch this again right now. It's that good. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? I know a 3.5-hour period drama won't be to everyone's taste, but if you are a fan of like big award season contenders, then yeah, you're definitely gonna wanna check this one out. It's just phenomenal across the board. Performances, direction, writing, crafts and text, like yeah, it's a real triumph. So yeah, I do recommend it. And third question, what score to give out of 10? I am simply in awe of the ambition and scale of The Brutalist, okay? It is a film that shines in so many aspects, and while I don't think it reaches like greatness, I think the first half is stronger than the second half. Not all of it quite came together for me. I'm still like so impressed by what he's managed to pull off. So I'm going to give The Brutalist a score of 8.5 out of 10. But as always, guys, it is just one bloke's opinion. I'd love to hear from you. Are you excited for The Brutalist? Have you seen it yet? If you have, what did you make of this film? Do you think it's going to be a player when it comes to the Oscars? If so, in what categories? What you have to say about this film, let me know in the comment section down below. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. Please do help me get to my end of your goal, getting to 10,000 subscribers. And if you want to stay up to date with all my Venice Film Festival coverage, be sure to follow me on the socials. You can find links to all of these in that video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.